there. You can review it. I'm going to turn off my chatting so that we are not interrupted. All right, 1 minute and counting. This should last between 20 and 30 minutes, not going to last the whole hour. Yesterday's probably ran about 20 minutes with presentation, answering a few questions throughout, and then more questions at the end, and then maybe 10 minutes of Q&A. All right, this is Kyle Waltz from 2C Processor. I also have Drew on the line with me, and for the most part, he'll be monitoring the Q&As and the chatting. I guess a little housekeeping here. We found out yesterday that there's multiple places to chat in this WebEx event. This is only our second time using this particular version of WebEx. So please don't do a private chat with me, Kyle, because I don't see it in the while I'm going through stuff. So Q&A would be best. So there's a questions spot on the WebEx. So please put your questions in there, not the group chat, your individual chat, really, but that way we could see it. For who this training is, that's probably the biggest question we got, who it's for. And this is for anybody that uses the old gateway, gateway.tprosecure.com. So we are getting rid of this. This is our old version. And after your upgrading of the pin pads, you will be on the new version of TPro3. The good news is we kind of switched you already about 6 months ago. So you'll have about 6 months of transactions already in TPro3. So you'll see batch closes and statements and transactions all for your locations. And what will happen is once you make the cutover, they'll stop going into this gateway and they'll only go into this one. So after you've converted all of your devices for one particular location, that's when everything will go into here. This training is not going to go over anything about the pin pad. CDK has a couple of documents for you that will go over the changes in the pin pad. For the most part, it's really just a key portal that looks a little different. Very similar, though. Even this gateway is similar to the old one. It's just styled differently. Let's go ahead and log in. I'm going to use our sandbox, which is a testing account. And you can see it's different. It looks different. We have a couple of quick links on here, but everything is going to go into this particular version of TPro. And this version has some upgrades, and you'll see it when you upgrade your pin pads. We can void out sales and authorizations now, where before we were just returning funds. So like doing a return, so you'd have a sale return on really the next day because we didn't allow it on the same day. But so you've got some upgrades like that. This one is level 3 capable. So any kind of sales invoice data, the IntelliDealer is sending over to us. So we send invoice information over to the processor, Visa and MasterCard and American Express. And then not to mention the other card brands, but you'll get level 3 rates, which is a better pricing if it's a commercial card or a purchasing card, that kind of thing. So if you upgrade or when you upgrade, then you'll take advantage of that without you having to do anything. You'll see some lower rates on those commercial cards. Also, the obvious reason to upgrade is the pin pad takes the chip, and with that is we just so you know, 2CP will no longer cover the fraudulent chip card transactions because we never took them before, and now we do. So you shouldn't receive any. That should be handled by the chip itself, which is the whole reason for doing it. But just so you know, we're not reimbursing any chargebacks, just in case you get some. But it should be, just like you've seen all over town. I'm sure everybody's taking the chip, and there's the stragglers that haven't. So we'll get you updated as quickly as possible. But that's going to work with our other team. This is just going to be going over the gateway interface. So before we get started, are there any questions? And so I have a little questions box, Q&A. I think we're good. All right, let's move on. So I've already logged in. Basically, our menu is right here, and it's a little different than what we had before, and where it was across the top. But we kind of give you more screen real estate by going this way. One thing to note is we're still enhancing this. So if there's any report that you need or something we need, we skipped, we left out of the old TPro. We've already done it for the clients that are already on here. We've added the reports or added the functionality. I mean, some as simple as we forgot the select all button. And so we put a select all in there, and so they could click all the merchant accounts at the same time. But we will go through one at a time. And so virtual terminal, most of the time you're going to be processing through IntelliDealer. So this does not apply, but if you ever have to run a transaction outside of IntelliDealer and just hit a credit card, you have the option to process it here. This again, it's different. It's a different layout than we have with the other one. Grabs the billing information down here and the shipping information. This is really the same, right? Counts and transaction types. So returns verifies how you could authorize. It doesn't authorize a card, just checks to make sure the card number is good and that the AVS and CVV match. So you can do that. Here we found a little bug too. Void shouldn't be here. You can't void transactions from this screen, but you can capture them if it's an authorization, and you can do an authorization. So you have those available just like you did before. You can put in an order number, or you could actually create a sales document. This opens this window. We could do a sales invoice. We could add items. So if you wanted to do it outside of IntelliDealer, then you could put in items. You could put in subtotals, which is tips, tax, shipping, handling, discounts, things like that. But again, most of you aren't going to be using this. If you're going to process, you might just put an order number in. So, I mean, that's fine too. But you should be going through IntelliDealer so it updates the system. Payment amount, so amount similar. If I picked a customer here, so customer number C001, it displays them all. And then what it does is a contact. So I could select the contact that I have, which will select Kyle Waltz. It populates everything for me. And even stored accounts are now listed in here. So I could process on a stored account. It puts some of the basic information in, and then you can run the transaction. I guess you'd have to put an amount, but and then process. You could even you could use the MagTech pin pad on this. So if you still wanted it outside of IntelliDealer, if you do want it to use that, just let us know. And we have a special browser that's used that will access the DynaPro. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Manual batch close, yet another screen you probably don't need to do because everything gets closed on a schedule, but you could manually close a batch just by clicking the button. All right, so I'm going to stop after each little section here. The virtual terminal only has two. One to process charges outside of IntelliDealer, and one to manually close your batch. Do we have any questions? All right, let me check my chats just to make sure we're not getting them there too. All right, I think we're good. Let's move on. Pretty easy section, huh? It's just a couple things. And we'll go back here. So reports. This is probably the main section you guys will use. The first thing we're going to do is transaction reports. And you could see that it pulled transactions from the Gateway's database. You could see here it says keyed with security, so that's a keyed in transaction with CVV. Here we didn't enter a CVV. You could see also where they're coming from. So this is some of our other integrations. This is just a test account that we use. You will see CDK's IntelliDealer application here, so you know where the transactions came from. You'll also know who entered them in by the user. And so it's not just one person. You'll see the actual user, similar to how we had it before, but in the other one we used the description field. This one actually is a user. So if I came over to search, I could actually, oops, I thought I could search on the user. Let's keep going though, and then we can see. So hash customer, the account holder's the customer's name. This is customer's name or number, invoice number, application, so you can look for CDK. This is a little different. Search by amount. So let's say I was looking for a $10, $15.99 charge, and I wasn't sure if there was a return for that or a void, and I want that. I could say absolute value, and then I could say the $15.99, and then it would look for $15.99 as well as negative $15.99 because that's how returns and voids are done. And so it's going to grab both. So we're not limited to just positive numbers, which is nice. You could also put in a range. So I could say I want to know, $5 to $15 or whatever, and it will grab that range. So sometimes you're not sure of the amount exactly. You could look that up, as well as here. We could do the start date and end dates just like last time. The account, I have two accounts, an ACH account, a credit card account. That's just in this demo. So you could select one or select both. This is where we added that select all button. It just hasn't been pushed out yet. Card type, all of these different kinds of cards you can look for. And again, if you leave it out, just search on that. Here's the entry method, the two we talked about, keyed and keyed with security. You do have inserted now and stored card or swiped, so you'll see those going through, as well as transactions. So if I did an authorization, then the capture would be entry method transaction because it's based off of the previous the previous one. Or if I voided it out, the void would be off a transaction. So just something to keep in mind on that. Transaction type, you have all the transaction types again that you could search for, and then response. So either both or declines or approvals, so whatever you want there. And then we could search the different ones. Voiding's done slightly different. We have just an actions button here, and then you could void. If this was an authorization, it would show capture. If it was a closed transaction, so if we searched, what's this one? Here, this one says reverse. So it's already been closed since it happened yesterday. So we can reverse it or issue the return. That will get money back. And I want to say you could even do a partial return here. So we reverse, and then you could say 50 cents or whatever, and then it'll process the return for 50 cents, and it will keep track of the returns on that. If you click View, it goes to a receipt page, and you could print that off too. We can customize this. Most of you don't have receipts going out because they go out through IntelliDealer, but this would be if you ever need to pull it again or something like that. Especially if you got a chargeback and you needed to pull receipt information, you could use that, or the one that comes out of IntelliDealer. You can export the listing that you have here, so it would be these 6 transactions, and let's see, I think it just pulls up the CSV file, and then you would have that so that you can manipulate it in Excel. You could search for whatever's been, let's see, I could say keyed. Let's hit enter. Yeah, see, so then all the keyed transactions or keyed with security show up. Oops, that's still the same. So maybe Kyle. There we go. So we could search like that too. And anything showing on the screen, we could just do a quick little search on. All right. The other thing is you could display how many entries you want. So our next report is processor batch, and I have no data in here, but it's similar to what you had before. You could export all the transactions, or you could export one at a time. But these are the transaction reports that come from the processor itself. So we just give you another report. Settlement report. So these are the day's transactions. And so you could see 627, we settled at 3 a.m. So there was 4 for $9,500 and 1, well, 9,501. You can export individually, or you could export your whole search query. The query lets you do volume and count on this one in the start and end dates. And then go ahead and select the account as well. So you could export whatever you've searched on. Some things to keep in mind, just know so you know how our system works. It's we cut off the batches, not on a demo, but all your accounts should be closing at around 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then at 8 o'clock, we start sending those transactions up to Visa, MasterCard, and the rest of the card brands. And we need to be completely settled by 9 o'clock or midnight Eastern, so 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. And that's when you'll get the funding the next day. If you don't get funding, let's say there's an issue, you should get it the following day, as you'll see those emails that go out from time to time saying we've had delayed funding. Sometimes that's our system, and sometimes it's someone else's, but it delayed your funding, so you would get it the following day. But if you're not on those notices, let me know, and then you could do it in an email to kylew@2cpusa.com or helpdesk, whichever you prefer. Just say, hey, I want to get on this mailing list. So we'll have that. But we do send out notices whenever there's a system issue or delayed funding or something new coming up. All right, let's go into ACH. You guys don't do ACH. A little different. This demo environment we use for several things. So we process ACH transactions, which I did see some emails back and forth. It sounded like IntelliDealer might support it pretty soon. So that'll be good news. Statements, though, and again, I don't have any, but you'll see them just like inside of this version. You'll be able to get your statements direct inside here and then print them out or export them. Close that down. Reports. The last one is chargebacks. Hopefully you don't get any of these, but you can search for chargebacks, card types, transaction types, or the card number, the hash of the four digits of card number, customer number, and then the amount. You have these choices again, plus the report or transaction date. So those are chargebacks. Again, I hope you don't get too many of those, and we always email you when those occur, so you know what's going on. All right, let me go ahead and check chatting and questions and answers. Okay, we do get some questions, and Drew's answering them. Let me go back. How will these transactions be sorted if we have multiple locations? Currently, we see a drop down for each location. So let's just go back to reports, transactions, and these are all sortable here. So you can click on that, start dates, whatever you need here, customer numbers, they're the same, invoice, so both forward and backwards. So you'll be able to sort them on your own. To piggyback to the transactions being stored, since they are all displayed and sorted by transaction date, will it still reference the location that the charge was at? The location is here under account. Mine just happens to be called CC Test. And that's what Drew said. So if anybody else had the same questions, there you go. Let's go ahead and move on. So under order entry, this is our invoices section. You have a tax report, which you probably get under IntelliDealer, and then you can have items. These items will be populated from IntelliDealer. So when you click on these and view, you should see information here for your orders, since IntelliDealer is pushing everything off to us as well. So you can drill into the transaction and see which items were purchased on there if you need to. You could also create a new one for some reason if you wanted to, but you can do that as well. And then the other order entries, it's just different things for different programs that we're integrated into. So like I said, taxes, items, categories, basically item types, and warehouses. And then let's just go to customers so you can see this, and then we'll ask questions again. And for customers, we pop up this screen because what we decided was if you have a lot of customers, the first thing we're doing is pulling all of your customers, and we didn't really see a need for that. So we've just popped up a filter. So chances are, if you go into the customer section, you're looking for someone specific. So we have the start and modify date, you can look for them, or the display name, or the name. So this could be Kyle. Well, actually, I just put in Waltz search, and it didn't find any. So maybe I did need Kyle. Let's try that one. Hitting goose eggs here. Let's see. Kyle Waltz, perhaps? No. That does not look good. All right, let's try this one. So that one comes up. Oh, the display name is not what I thought it was. So shopping carts. So anyway, these pull up. You can delete them if you need to. You can edit them, and this is actually going to edit just basically the number, which will come from CDK, and the display name. And then if you wanted to drill into it, I canceled that. Let's try this again. Cancel? No. Search. Okay, so if you view these, it goes to a context. Let's go ahead and view one of mine. This guy here, AccuCrete. Give it a second. I think I missed the first one. There we go. So it pulls the primary contact. So basically what we have here is all of the contacts are stored on the customer record. So this particular client has several contacts, and you guys could have multiple ones as well, especially through the keyed portal. So you can store cards based on each customer. Stored cards, it's like ACH or credit cards. So stored accounts is what we call it. And then these are all the stored credit cards based on that particular client. You could also click over to sales documents, and it gives a list of all of the invoices on that particular customer. So you could view it by that way if you know the customer record. Search here, you could export in the document screen, but you can go in and view it. Gives you the invoice information. All right, so that was customers here. Are there any questions that we could address now? Okay. Is there a way to customize in our case, or there'll be a column that will designate the original branch of purchase, which it does, that's the account. And we see daily subtotals for transactions. We will have to export every transaction to Excel in order to see the subtotals. And you should be able to do that from the search. If not, this is based on the transactions. You would just search on it, and you could do it per location or all of them, and they should display in Excel. You could export everything at the same time or individual if you wanted to. And it should be all of our search functions the same way. So our export functions the same way. It'll be based on the search. Let's go to administration users. So here we've changed the users a bit. Before you were logging in with client ID, username, and password. Now you're logging in with a gateway name, an email address, and a password. So a little different, but we do that email address so that we can send updates. So if you need to change your password, the system will initiate that, and then we could communicate with you if need be. So we'll just look at a user here, and I'll click here. So it gives information about the user. You could edit this. And so we could click over to system. Basically, it's active, inactive, user groups. Let's just edit. So here's user information. It's first name, last name, and a password, email address. System is active or inactive. User groups, this is like the permission groups. So here it's assigned to local administrators. And then accounts is which one they have they need. So you have the check all button here, and then you could always just select one or the other kind of thing. So that's similar to what we had before. Just nicer interface. Cancel, and we will go back. Administrations, receipts. Again, you're not really using receipts, but just to let you know what this is you can update the footer on each merchant account, and then we could put a logo on if you wanted, but this is our receipt, not the intelligent one. And this is just how we send information out. So we have triggers on different objects, and so when we settle, there's a trigger. When there's a transaction, there's a trigger. So if you wanted to get some copies of emails of receipts, like every time you ran a transaction, we would do that here. And we can certainly help with that. And then lastly, if we are sending emails and receipts, you'll have a log of them right here. And you could always click on resend, or we could view it. This is added into this interface because we've resent some emails for clients. So you can do that here. Any questions on the administration tabs? All right. Drew's handling that. Let's see. Does the user info also give us the capability to reset the password? Also, can we have more than one administrator? Yes, you could have more than one administrator and almost reset the password. When you log in, you can, but you'll be able to just click a button and it will send out the email instructions. We're just about ready to deploy that to this new interface. Customer portal, we don't need to worry about this. It's just another feature that we have to allow customers to take transactions. Here is an import template download. You can import transactions or stored accounts. So if you do have credit card numbers or you want to process a bunch of credit transactions offline, you can do that here. You would download the Excel spreadsheet that will allow you to type in the template, and then you go under tools. Well, this is for importing, excuse me. You'd export it first, and you can export your stored accounts, and then you could import. Let's get this right. This is the template you could download. And let's say I did that one. We go next, and then it tells us what we're doing, and click next, and we pick our template, and then submit, and we run all those transactions that were in there, or we update the stored accounts. So everything's done through here. Again, we push over things from IntelliDealer, so you might not need it, but it's there if you do. If there's some other export you need that's not listed here, let us know. We can add it, but for right now, it's just it's not full credit cards, just hash, but you could see which accounts have stored accounts or not. You could download. So that is pretty much the new interface. You could see your user. You could log out here. Very similar, as far as functionality as to the old one. And that's really all I have to share with you. You'll be getting DocuSigns if you haven't already that will help us upgrade your information. Let me check on questions and answers. And then card type is the only one. Anybody else with questions? Any questions on the process of upgrading your device? All right, then that's it. It's 1:28 my time, so about 30 minutes. So unless you have anything else, you'll get a copy of this screen share that we've done, and you can forward it to other people. There'll be additional training in July in case you need someone else to go through it, and that's pretty much it. So unless you have something else, then have a good rest of the day. I'll say Drew and I will stay on answering any questions we have. Someone asked for settlements. And if I click view, these were all visas, but the card type shows up here. Transactions show here. You can view each one. That gives the receipt. Let me close down the chat window. And I guess you have to print the screen. Actually, settlement report. Let's just make sure. You could export these transactions here. You could export your whole list that you're doing. And then if you print them, you're going to be using the browser print button. Let's see how that, yeah, so it pulls all the information there. I don't think we need that. We'll have to check that. But maybe we should add a print button on there that's a little cleaner than that, but we can handle that. Is that questions and answers? Does that work, Sharon? You have to click into individual transactions to see the card type. Yes. You would look at it. It's not trans. Oh, you mean on this screen? Here it says Visa, so you would see the card type. Do you mean and then sale? I don't know which one you're referring to, but you have to click into each batch to see that the individual batches, or you could export and see them too. So if we went back and we let me move this window, export all, should give us a CSV on all these transactions that were listed. Does that help? Let's check our participants. We still have 13 people on. Are there other questions? Katie, yeah, we'll make the recorded version. I believe you get a copy of it when the emails come down, but if not, we'll make sure everybody gets a copy of it. I'll send them out to everybody. So with the 11 people on here, I can unmute everybody if you have questions we can answer.
Set to 11 o'clock Central Time. They start, they're doing this now, they start some kind of process at 7 o'clock? Yes, at 7 o'clock.
Okay, hang on a sec. Sorry, I'm trying to. Sharon. There you go, Sharon. Can you talk?
Yes, we can. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. What's going on?
Okay, we just had a question.
Hey
Yep.
there, it's
Brittany also with Sharon.
Great.
Question for you. In the current TPro, right now we sort by merchant account and we're able to see a subtotal batch and also card totals by type. That was kind of what we were trying to get at in the questions that we were asking you. Is there a way to do that without exporting to Excel and then filtering ourselves down? Because the way we reconcile right now is, Amex and then all other types, so it's important for us to see card type subtotals like currently we see, and then also by branch. So
you basically went to transactions, right? Here. And
yeah,
then like if there was a batch close, it would say right here there's batch close. And what did you do?
The way that we see it now, it's sorted by merchant account, and then also there's card subtotals at the top, and then a batch total at the top. So do we have anything like that in the new system, or are we strictly supposed to just export and then filter on our own to get all of those subtotals?
I see what you're saying. Well, the accounts, we separated it here. So we're showing everything, and we kind of display them here.
Okay.
But that is not going to be, it's going to give you a total for whatever you searched on, so this is one, but if, let's say there was a batch close in between here, it would actually, right, it would list, that's what it said before, it would list the transaction.
But is that an entire batch or just a single transaction, though?
Well, if there was a batch close, it would be here. We don't do this too much anymore. Let me see. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off.